Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going on a bit of a historical journey today to uncover the true meaning behind a word we use all the time, but if we're being honest, rarely stop to actually think about. All right, let's dive right into Lesson 2, Concept of Hero.
I want to start off by tossing a central question right to you. What really makes someone a hero? Just pause for a second. Think about the very last time you called someone a hero. Was it a character in a movie? A historical figure? Maybe a family member? What actually earned them that title?
Often, when we hear the word hero, our minds instantly jump to a really specific image, right? We picture these famous historical figures, people immortalized in giant bronze statues, who made the ultimate sacrifice and died for their country. But does it have to be that way? Must a hero be dead? Or can an ordinary, living, breathing person be one? We're going to challenge some of those preconceived notions today.
Moving into Section 1, what is a hero? Let's start by looking at what the standard dictionaries actually tell us. So there's actually a pretty stark contrast between two very different worldviews here. In traditional Western dictionaries, a hero is usually defined as this illustrious man, someone of divine descent who is highly individualistic and, well, exalted after death. Think of Superman, basically. But if we flip the script and look at the indigenous Filipino concept, we find the word Bayani. The root of this word is bayan, which literally means community or nation. A Bayani wasn't some solitary demigod, they were a normal, everyday warrior of the community. Their efforts were entirely collaborative.
And that brings us to Section 2, the early Filipino Bayani. So what did these early heroes actually do? Well, one of the primary roles of an early Bayani involves something called pangangayao, which translates to community raiding into unallied territory. Now hold on, before you picture bloodthirsty conquerors, it's really fascinating to learn that early heroes participated in this for highly practical reasons. They did it to secure necessary resources for their village, to avenge family honor, or to fulfill mourning requirements. The absolutely crucial point here is that they never did this alone, and they always returned home to their community.
This brilliantly illustrates the true heart of a Bayani. It wasn't about violence at all. It was about service. We see this in two related words you might recognize, Bayanihan, which means cooperation, and Ipa Bayani, meaning free labor offered by or to someone in the community. A true Bayani was actually a kawani, or a community servant. Their ultimate goal? To maintain peace and order, and to help those in need without ever counting the cost.
So, what kind of personality did this community servant actually have? Well, the late 19th century dictionary by Pedro Serrano Lactau gives us this really fascinating list of traits. It says a Bayani fears no one. They are courageous, firm, and bold. But notice those last two words on the list, quiet and calm. These ancient qualities describe a living, breathing human being carrying themselves with immense dignity. Heroism in the early Philippines was a respected, honorific role in society for the living, not just some posthumous award given to someone after they passed away.
But, as we know, history doesn't stand still. Let's look at Section 3, how heroism changed.
This timeline maps out a massive chronological shift. Back in the pre-colonial era, as we just discussed, the hero was a living community warrior. But when the Spaniards conquered the Philippines, they introduced a totally different model to make the locals, good colonials. The ideal models became dead saints and disciples, which really promoted strict obedience. Then, during the American era, the focus shifted yet again. The Americans promoted secular heroes, often dead American soldiers or past presidents like George Washington, to justify their rule and instill American culture. It took centuries, but that original definition was severely warped. However, if you look over at the modern era, we see a fascinating return to form.
Today, we have the Bagong Bayani, which translates to modern-day new heroes. And this term is specifically used to describe overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs. Connect the past to the present for a second here. Just like those ancient warriors who left their villages to secure resources through pangangayao, modern OFWs leave their homes, they work tirelessly abroad to secure resources, and they bring their triumphs back to sustain their communities. The ancient Bayani spirit is absolutely alive and well today.
So how are heroes officially recognized today? Let's get into Section 4, Criteria for a Hero.
The National Historical Commission of the Philippines actually released official criteria for recognizing heroes. Underneath all that heavy academic language, it really just comes down to a few simple rules about a person's motives and their methods. First, did they sacrifice for the welfare of the country? Second, do they possess strong moral character? Third, did they contribute to a system of freedom? And crucially, did they think of the future, especially future generations? It's not just about one flashy event, it's about the entire process of their life.
Let's bring all these concepts together now in Section 5, the case of Jose Rizal.
Because heroism is basically a social construct, it can absolutely be used for political agendas. During the American colonial period, the Americans actually needed a national hero for the Philippines that fit their specific agenda. They wanted a hero who was, number one, nonviolent, preferring peaceful means like education. Number two, someone who had no qualms with American imperialism. And number three, someone who was already dead. Based on these very specific criteria, Rizal was the obvious choice over more militant figures like Andres Bonifacio or Apolinario Mabini.
But to ensure fairness to history, we really have to look at both sides of the coin here. Yes, the Americans officially promoted Rizal. In 1901, William H. Taft practically appointed him to embody American-approved nationalism, which led to all those monuments and holidays. However, Filipinos had an organic veneration for Rizal long before the Americans ever got involved. Andres Bonifacio and the Katipunan actually hung his portrait in their meetings, making him their honorary president. And Emilio Aguinaldo declared a national day of mourning for Rizal way back in 1898. So while his image was certainly utilized by colonizers, his heroism was already deeply, organically felt by his community.
Now, you might be wondering who is actually on the official legal list of national heroes today. Well, this perfectly illustrates just how complicated this social construct really is. In 1995, a National Heroes Committee recommended 9 historical figures, including Rizal, Bonifacio, and Aguinaldo, to be officially declared national heroes. But take a close look at that approval status column. The list was never actually approved. No way, right? The government realized that officially crowning these individuals would just trigger bitter, endless historical debates among the public. So instead of one definitive list, various laws were passed just to honor them individually. It just goes to show that defining a hero for an entire nation is an incredibly difficult task.
Which brings our explainer full circle today. So, what really makes someone a hero? As we've seen, a hero doesn't have to be a dead, flawless, larger-than-life figure standing on a pedestal. The true, original essence of the Bayani is all about being a living, breathing community servant. It's about having the calm courage to help those around you, to secure resources for your community, and to think of future generations. Heroism isn't just the title reserved for dusty history books. The real question I want to leave you with is this: knowing what the Bayani spirit truly is, how will you embody it in your own community today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.